here's a huge one that took me a while to realize. Maybe you guys have never thought about this. Maybe you have. Think about it right now. When you go into your game and you're up, I'll use it for me as baseball. You guys can apply this to whenever you're up in your sport. You're up in baseball. I was a hitter, so I'm up to bat. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little more nervous than when I'm sitting in the dugout, right? Okay, so now is my time or moment in my game. So I'm a little bit more nervous. But the reality is, so are the 9 guys in the field nervous because they're also responsible for having to catch the ball once I hit it. And so is the pitcher because he's actually the guy that has to start the whole play. He has the ball in his hand to start. He's the guy who's in control of throwing a ball or a strike. And even the referees and umpires a little bit because they don't want to make a bad call. And so are the coaches because if they lose the game, the first question is going to be, what did the coach do? What was the coach responsible for this? Everybody has nerves. You're not alone within that, okay? But we all, I know I did, and I'm sure a lot of us here as well, we think of it that way. We think when we're up, we're nervous and everyone else is just robots. It's not the case. Acknowledge the fact that other people are nervous as well. I think I talked about this a little bit the last time I was here. Probably it was last fall. Just the fact that for me personally, when I realized that other people were just as nervous, sometimes even more, or sometimes a lot more. Okay, again, just for me, and I'm sure everyone's been here at a point in time, but once I established myself as a better player and I realized that guy's intimidated because he knows who he's pitching to, and hundreds of other players besides me. I'm not saying that to toot my own horn or anything, but when I realized mentally and psychologically that he is a lot more nervous than me, it made me want to pounce, attack like a lion. Like seriously, you know what I mean? I think of that's one of the first things I think of: a lion hunting in the jungle, in the field, and he's going down, he's chasing down a gazelle. One of those animals is nervous and scared as can be, and one of them is licking their chops. They're ready to hunt. Which one are you in your sport, right? Because that is very much applicable to all of us as athletes. One of us is going to be ready to rock, aggressive, ready to make a play because they have confidence built up within themselves. What's about to happen? They know their opponent or not know their opponent. And I think the great ones, it doesn't matter who that opponent is, they have that same feeling regardless. Those are the great ones that do that. But you've got to realize that you're not on an island. Everyone else has those same things. So that one perspective shift alone can loosen you up a little bit. For me, it did tremendously. Okay, realizing that everyone else is just like you, if not more. And that was the competitive edge for me, if not more nervous than I am. Right? Okay. So that's one understanding of the perspective shift. We talked about committing to the idea that your mind is your greatest asset, and even we talked about the fact that the things that you are nervous about, there's nothing you can do to change that. Okay. Sometimes we're nervous about the things we can control. Yeah, we're afraid of messing up. That's something we can control. We're afraid of not performing well. But man, there's a whole other side of it, of things that it serves you no good to waste your time thinking about. There's nothing you can do to change. Okay, with all of that said in mind, let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to simple, complex, right? When you have the complex mind, and you're thinking about too many things, you're thinking about those things that make you nervous that you can't control anyways. When you forget about those and just think about what is my job, what are the things that I can control, one thing, two things max, when I'm up to bat, when I'm up in my sport, when it's time for me to take a test, when it's go time for anything. What are the things that, if I just lock in on this one or two things and just focus on that alone, that will allow me to have my best chance for my best performance? I'm a pitcher, okay? I'm up, and if you don't know baseball, you throw 4 balls, the guy walks, you get 3 strikes, the guy's out. And so I'm sure it happens for any pitcher. It happens for me as a hitter. You're kind of thinking about sometimes within at bats already the end result if you walk the guy, if he gets a hit before you even made one pitch of that at bat, right? So that alone already is distracting you from your one job, which is to throw one good pitch. one, right? Somebody hands you a ball and you're in the bullpen by yourself. Give me one of your best pitches here, right? If you do that in the bullpen, you're not thinking at all about the end result of the at-bat, who the hitter is, who the team is, how tight the umpire strike zone is, what the mound's like, what the weather's like. We could make a list of 20 things right there. All those things are in the list of complexity that you don't need. You can throw it in the garbage. You think about the one thing of what your job is. Being a pitcher, throw one good pitch. Other sports, give me examples. As a lacrosse player, what's one thing that you need to focus on in your position? That's like of the most importance.
Like for me, I take face-offs.
Okay.
So like, I'm the best at them.
Okay.
I know that, but like, I'm just a guy who like I have to do it. But I don't win them, so like I try my best not to. I don't know. Like people just train face-offs, but I don't.
Yeah.
So like, I go up against guys who just train face-offs.
Yeah.
I don't know how to like go about the situation, so I just try to make it like a scrum. So maybe we can get the ground ball.
Yeah. And I can relate that even to like probably a tip off for a basketball player, similar, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: is there thoughts in your head about, okay, after this, what am I going to do once I lose this?
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Right. So you got to get that out of your head, and regardless of how likely it is for you to succeed or not at the face-off, it's got to be, what's the one thing I can do to give me the best chance to win this face-off? You know what I mean? And then after that, okay, now I'm here and I'm there, now my responsibilities. But as soon as you let the thoughts creep in your head of where am I going to be after this, and I don't want that to sound counterintuitive, because that is important. You got to, as an athlete, know where you're going to go next. You got to anticipate. But you also got to trust, okay, I've been doing this enough times. I already know where I need to be after this. You got to trust your instincts there and kind of let that be in the back of your mind just for a second. Because it's really, and maybe I'm biased, more than any other sport for me as a baseball player, it's a blink of an eye of a decision of whether I get a hit or miss the ball, because the ball comes in so fast. So yeah, I got to be ready, but at the end of the day, what I do and what I'm in control of, and literally that is success, failure. Whatever I do in that time determines it. It's so fast. So if you can lock in, and for anybody here, if you can apply it to like your sport and what you're doing when you get the ball, when you're up, whatever, that most important moment, how do you make sure in that one blink of an eye that you're not thinking about anything else other than what's the one thing I can control in my body to give myself the best chance to give a little bit better tip off, or you know what I mean, face off. I think that's got to be key, regardless of how good the other guy is, how big he is, whatever. Just focusing on that. And maybe, if it's like a different strategy you're going to use one time versus another, lock in on that strategy, lock in on that one, like the details, the game within the game, what you're going to do. Because again, you only have to focus on that for this amount of time. That's all, right? And so if you can, again, just put all that stuff in the background for that short amount of time, it's already going to double your chances of success. Does that make sense? Can anybody give me an example in other sports of how that would apply? And I'll make an assumption. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong. Soccer, like right before a kick, if you're going to try to score on a goal, maybe, right? That's an important moment, right? That one stroke of you kicking determines if the ball is going to be accurate or not, right? Basketball, a shot, right? A shot or an attempt to block or an attempt to steal, like those quick, fast moments, right? What other sports am I missing? Football? What position do you play? Center? Okay, so the second the ball snaps, right? How important is it the second the ball snaps, that first move, if somebody's blitzing, of you getting in your position or not, right? Really important. Right, so think about those. Think about all those moments for whatever it is in your sport, and how many times do you have something else in your head that you're kind of thinking about in the midst of that? A lot or a little? How often does that happen? Would you guys say? Decent amount? More than you would like it to? You guys understanding that? For me as a hitter, if I'm up to bat, again, I'm talking about a blink of an eye, the decision I have to see if the ball is a striker ball and if I'm going to swing or not, and if I'm going to hit in the middle or not. If I have the score in the back of my mind, or we're winning or losing in the back of my mind, or who the pitcher is and where he's from in the back of my mind, in the midst of the ball in the air, I'm done. I have no chance. And again, for you guys in your sport, when that's happening, that right there, those extra thoughts, those distractions that fall on the list of complexity, not keeping a simple, clear, direct focus and path to what your goal is, what your objective is, those are the differences between winning and losing, success and failure. Really is. It's not that you're not capable, it's that you're not focusing on the right things. You're adding too much into the recipe. Too much, too many ingredients. You gotta cut out the fat and stick to, because again, when you get in that frame of mind of one good thought, one thing I can focus on, the ability, because your mind's really powerful. Everyone here, regardless of your intelligence, everybody has 5 million horsepower in here of what it's capable of doing. Think about how fast you can react to things. Think about how quickly you make decisions. Think about driving a car, how quickly you can be on the road or in a wreck by just this of your hand, and how fast and how quickly your mind is able to pick up on things. Guys, we underestimate the power you have within. Okay? And so again, when you can let that machine operate at a high level by focusing on one thing, it's going to double, triple, times 4 your performance. Because now you got your superpower working for you. Instead of all of these things and the complexity that are your kryptonite that are holding you back from being able to operate at your highest level. Does that make sense? I'll take a quick pause. Anyone have any thoughts, questions, comments on anything so far that we've talked about? I want to tell a quick story. I just heard this within a week ago. I was watching a football game. It was the 49ers, and their head coach is Kyle Shanahan. You might know as a football player, Mac Jones has been their quarterback. He's the backup, but he was a first-round draft pick. He was on the New England Patriots for a while, really good college player, and didn't do great his first couple of years, goes to another team. That's the same story for so many pro athletes, especially quarterbacks, really, really good college players, just very hard, very competitive at the pro level to succeed. They don't have success. There's a lot of factors that go into that. But the reporter asked Kyle Shanahan, the head coach, because Mac Jones now in a new system has been playing really well. And for a new team, he's been a completely different guy. So he asked the coach, what's the biggest factor to him having success right now? Because he didn't before, and kind of know he had it in him at one point. And Coach Kyle Shanahan said the very first thing that he did with him when they got to talking was he said, we've got to eliminate the fear in you as a passer. We've got to eliminate the fear of you throwing an interception. We've got to eliminate the fear of everything. A rusher sacking you, making a mistake, making a bad throw, throwing to the wrong person, not calling hike in time before the clock runs out. Right? Again, there's so many things you can think about. How many yards do I need to go here? What stadium am I in? The weather, right? Am I an underdog in this game? Are we favored? What are the betting odds? Like if we really sat here and thought about legitimate thoughts that go on in your head throughout a game, there could be 100 of them. But he said we have the first thing before strategy, before mechanics, before talent, before any of that is we got to eliminate your fear of making a mistake. We've got to get you to start cutting it loose. Because for all of you, think about when you were playing your best. Okay, think about when you were playing your best. What kind of state were you in internally? Were you in a state where you were playing really tight and timid, or were you loose, free, aggressive, playing to try to make something happen on the field as opposed to playing afraid of messing something up? You guys spend 10 seconds, think about that. When is one moment you were playing your best in your sport? What did that feel like inside? Not anything else other than an internal feeling. What kind of state were you in when you were feeling it, when you were having your best game? Or was anyone here in a state of like hesitation, tightness, timidness, second guessing, double thinking something, on the fence? No. And no great play that you've had is in the state of that. So you've got to be able to cut it loose without the fear of failure, knowing that there's so many things you can't control anyways that are not worth you thinking about. You've got to accept failure because, again, it is inevitable. There's nothing you can do to stop it from happening. It's just part of the process. You've got to like commit to it. Like, don't just say, yeah, that's true. Like, meditate on that for an hour. Seriously, I know it sounds crazy. Like, really think about that. And I think the more you let that sink in, and actually, if you believe in it, which the more you put the pieces together, the more you put the facts together, you'll believe in it. You don't need to come up with that within yourself. I gave you several examples of, the best Michael Jordan, the best basketball player of all time, gets cut from his high school basketball team. He's missed more shots than any other player when the game's been on the line, ball in his hand, he's missed. He has a famous quote. He's missed like 9,000 shots. Over 100 times he was trusted to win the game, and he lost for the team. But on the flip side, he has some of the most success and championships and everything else, considered to be one of the best ever. And so it's inevitable, right? You've got to detach from the result. You've got to allow yourself to play loose, free, and aggressive. So I'm still a baseball coach today, and that's one of the main messages we try to preach to our players: loose, free, and aggressive. Body's got to feel loose. You've got to allow yourself to be playing freely without any fear of failure or any fear of making the mistake. Whatever happens, happens, right? But if I gave you the ball and you were pitching and I was God, and I said, you're going to walk this guy. I just know I'm God. I know everything, right? You're going to walk him. You already knew that, right? Would you be as nervous? Just from a nerve standpoint. Like, forget about performance. Would you be as nervous if you knew it was going to happen, if you knew you're going to walk a guy? I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. This is going to happen.
Just like God telling you that you're gonna walk no matter what. It's like, go with it, maybe. I mean, I'd be nervous because I'm gonna like try my best to still get you out.
Right.
What would the end result be if I got you out? And I was like, no, I'm gonna go against that.
Let me ask you guys another question. If you were going to go into a test in your classroom, and I told you you're going to fail this test, you just are. You're going to fail it, but you knew that beforehand. You guys I've had it happen several times to me. I didn't study. I knew I'm going to fail this test. I didn't study. I should have. I didn't. I'm going to fail this test. I've accepted it. Wasn't that nervous? Yeah, I was disappointed in myself. I'm going to make a correction next time. Certainly. I'm not proud of that. But was I as nervous? No. I kind of knew it was going to happen. Does that make sense? Kind of the same analogy I'm giving you. But think about that. That's what's going to happen anyways. You're going to fail tests. You're going to fail in your sport, right? When we're just talking about nerves, trying to get you in a state of mind where you can perform and be loose, free, and aggressive, not tight, nervous, timid, all of those things. Are you guys understanding that? Because that's what I'm telling you. It's statistically has to happen. Statistically, failure has to happen. Okay, so you've got to just embrace it. Embrace it. Now, I will say this, just to be very clear on something. I keep getting back to these two columns of being clear and direct and focused on what it is your goal. What are the one thing I can control? And not letting all these complexity and distractions fog you up, get you in a funk, and put handcuffs on you, make you feel like you're handicapped in your game. Right? When we think about that, and everything here is linked. It's like one big circle where everything's connected. It really is. Between the complexity, stress, the fear of failure gonna happen anyways, like being too attached to the result. And to take it a step further, and you guys can agree with this, I'm not like being like mean or whatever by saying this, like Is anybody here like waiting for a phone call from the Pittsburgh Pirates or Steelers to say, "Hey, we're going to draft you in the first round next week"? Right? You know what I mean? And that's 99.9% of the world. I'm not singling anybody out. Your career as an athlete is very short. It is. It's short. Again, and make the most of it when you're here. But like you're going to be graduated, and like 1 year goes by, 2, 3, 5, 10. You are not going to be thinking about that little mistake you had in college when you're an athlete. When you look back on it, you're thinking, "Oh, I was actually really nervous about that in the time." Now I realize, like my college career was like that. It was so fast. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I take a lot of pride in saying that you were a college athlete. I think those things are great. But as far as like, how big of a deal is this really? It's not that big of a deal. And even like for me, like I got drafted in the 3rd round, and in baseball you get drafted by a major league team, but you go right to the minor leagues. So I was in the minor leagues. I never made it up to the major leagues. I was in the minor league system. Obviously, it was my goal to make it to the major leagues. And for me, it was like, this is all I worked for my entire life. And at that point, it was like a job, right? You're getting paid to play, not very much when you're in the minor leagues. You get paid very, very little as a minor league baseball player, talking like $1,000 a month. And all for the hopes of all of the, the end goal of making it to the major leagues. So at that stage, yeah, it's like, man, I had a bad game or a strikeout. I'm now just lessening my chance to make it. I'm increasing my chance of me eventually being cut or released, which ended up happening. Happens to 99% of the guys. And think about all those moments where I had in my mind, what I do here is going to get me further or closer away from my end goal. And when I had those thoughts in my head when I was up to bat, I never performed better. The games I perform, it's going to surprise you guys, the games I performed the best is when I cared the least about the end result. I don't mean care the least like careless, like being stupid in my decision making, for lack of a better term. Right? I mean not caring about the end result. So when I didn't care about the end result, I was loose, free, and aggressive. When I was a kid, we used to play wiffle ball all the time. Right? And wiffle ball was fun. I played great wiffle ball because I never cared about the end result, because it was just me and my friends playing. I never dropped the ball in wiffle ball. Never really swung and missed at the ball in wiffle ball. Right? Because again, it's that frame of mind of what I was attaching to the end result. You guys think about just in your practice, in your scrimmages, games that don't really count but are good reps. You're not worried about the end result as much, right? You probably play a little bit better overall. We have our bad games, sure, but like overall, you probably play the way you like to play when it really counts, right? You can decide that internally. You can be in control of that. You can be in control of your perspective and your state of mind going into each game. That 100% is something you can control. Is it something you have to work on? Yeah. How do you work on it? How do you work on that? Do you guys, how many hours do you guys put in physically a week on your sport? Whether that's time in the gym, time practicing, everything. Physically, how much time would you guys say you put on average on your sport? Just throw me a number. Every sport's different. What do you guys think? 15 hours? It's a lot too. And on top of school and class, right? Okay, 15 hours. How many hours do you guys spend on like your mental strength, perspectives, the things that we're talking about today? How much time do you guys spend on that? Almost zero sometimes. That's large majority, if not, high 90% of athletes. That to me is like the biggest mistake in sports. That to me, I didn't realize until I got to the pro level. For you guys, probably the same thing. At this college level, still, it's highly competitive. It's way more competitive than your high school sport. So it flip-flops. Yeah, you got to put in still the physical work, but that stuff becomes less relevant because everyone is in this box where the variation in talent is minor, right? The change in talent at the high school level was major. Some people were real low, so there's a lot in the middle, there's a lot high, there was just a wide range. Now everyone's capable, You guys, on a scale of 0 to 100, wherever you guys are at, let's just say we're in that 80 to 90 range. Everyone's in that range. There's not any 50s here, right? Everyone's in this same range. So if everyone's in the same range physically, strength, speed, talent, all of those things, what will separate you? What's going to separate you? What's going to be your X factor? It's got to be the mindset. It's got to be the mental game, right? That's why you see like plenty of quotes and discussions with these high-level athletes like a Michael Jordan, a Tom Brady, whoever. They have a lot to say about the mental game. I don't know if you guys like I study athletes a lot. It's not just like I was really good and then I did really well. They have a lot to say about their mental strategy. They spend a lot of time on that side of it. How to handle failure, right? How to perform well, how to focus, how to brush, how to detach from the end result, and so on. Confidence, right? So you guys are at a stage, try to maybe spend some extra time, even if it's 15 minutes at night, every other night. I mean, a total of start with an hour a week in total, maybe. You do 15 minutes for 4 days a week. There's an hour every other day. And read a book about this stuff. There's plenty of great content now on YouTube, which didn't used to be the case, of people that are really qualified that can teach and talk about these things, just from the mental aspect of sports. If you're dealing with a certain thing that you need help with, you can just search that thing and find something directly to what it is you're struggling with. To find new perspectives, to start changing the way you think, because that's by far the most powerful thing. That's why, again, I opened up today with like the way I did. You first, before anything else, have to change the way you think. Change the strategy of how you think. You've got to start playing a different game with yourself mentally. Totally different game. Because and again, this isn't a negative statement. Don't take this the wrong way. But if what you're doing right now is working perfectly, then just keep doing that. But if what you're doing right now could use some improvement, you've got to do something different, right? So you've got to be able to change the way you think and adopt new principles and beliefs and strategies mentally. Even for today, if it's adopting the new belief, an actual commitment to, I'm going to detach from the result. I'm not worried about if we win or lose, what my stats are. I'm just going to totally detach from that. Just play loose, free, and aggressive with what it is I can control. I'm going to detach from all these distractions of all these things that I think about, and now just limit it to 1 or 2 things that I'll think about that I know are actually the real things that move the needle. Because at the end of the day, there's only a few things that will really move the needle and really be the difference maker. Okay, those are the things. There's a real, yeah.
What was your pre-game strategy? Like
everybody
goes and listens
to yeah. It evolved through the years. I think when it was at its best, I have the Notes app on my phone. Everyone has. I had a list of things, whether it be my favorite quotes that helped me, things that I would come up with on my own as far as like things that helped me or my strategy. And it'd just be like five bullet points maybe, and I'd read those before the game. Because again, it all relates to getting yourself into the state you want to be in before game time. If your mind is, our mind with everything we do is constantly just doing this, right? We're just observing what's going on. And if we let it do that before a game, we're in trouble. Because now we're just grabbing on to everything we see, and that's when we get nervous. We see that team looks really good warming up. We see that this is a big game. We see that, the weather conditions are poor. We see all these things that now just make our confidence get lower and lower and lower and lower. So you've got to be the one controlling your state that you enter the environment in. You've got to be the one controlling. So for me, it was, I did like to listen to music because that got me energetic, that got me pumped up, got me into a good state. And everyone's different. I'm not saying music has to be something, but for me it was. So it was music, it was reading those bullet points of like, again, my strategy. Some of them were at times detached from the result. I'm reading that before the game. Not worried about the result. Play loose, free, and aggressive. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? You've got to be in that state of just just reckless abandonment. Like go out there and play fast, play free, play aggressive. When you do that, even just saying it to yourself frees you up to like it because it is kind of an addicting feeling, and that's where I think you see these athletes go crazy in games sometimes, just have great performances. It's just like everything has to go right with the way that they're playing. We've all had those games where we feel that way. We just got ultimate momentum on our side. You got to get yourself in a state to allow that, to welcome that to happen. Never going to happen if you don't set the stage for yourself. Okay, set the stage for yourself with some of those things. But again, simple things. I'm not doing a whole long list of things. I'm listening to my music and I'm reading my short things here. And I'm thinking about, maybe for me as a hitter, I'm thinking about the one thing that's helping me hit well right now. And that's it. And commit to it. Now I'm committing to it. And if I do it and it doesn't work, I'm not going to change everything up for the next game. I stick to it. If I'm doing some things that aren't working that I want to change, then I can still do that too. There's no strategy that you have to stick to for the rest of your life. It's always going to be evolving and changing. But that's huge. That's huge right there. So pick a few things to help you get into the state of mind. Remind yourself of the things we're talking about today. You got to you have to, because this will be in your head, but not in your head all day, and probably not in your head when your next game comes right before. You've got to set the stage fairly close to before game time for yourself. Simple, I'm telling you, simple things, one or two things. And then your music, whatever gets you in a good mood, or loosen yourself. Talking with teammates. If you're feeling nervous, I always found too, like talking with teammates more actually loosened me up more. You don't have to be just all to yourself. Just be a communicator. Talk to your teammates the same way you would if you guys are just hanging out in practice. That will help loosen each other up. That's a really simple but effective one. But again, I can't stress enough the importance of a clear, simple approach of like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to go do it. Go do it. Go execute it. The more you think about it, the more we think about anything, the more we start to talk ourselves out of it. You guys notice that? You start overthinking, you make a decision in your mind 1 second, it seems like a great idea, and then all of a sudden you keep thinking about it, and you find ways of how you can psych yourself out or think, well, maybe it won't work because of this, or maybe because of that, and then you talk yourself out of it. Don't talk yourself out of it. Life's short, the game is short, your career as an athlete is going to be short. Okay? Be loose, free, and aggressive. Go out there, detach, get the result out of your head. The example of the quarterback, cut it loose. Stop worrying about somebody intercepting the pass, because then psychologically you're looking for the defenders. Look for the guy you're passing to. Same thing for you guys in your sport. Look for what it is you're trying to do, instead of letting the distraction of failure be in the block, be in the blocking the way.
Dustin, did you use breathing at all? I teach a lot of breathing.
Yeah, I wish I did better. Like I did a little bit, like when I was an athlete, but I wish I did more. I think that's a really good way to just get yourself back to normal and back to the state that we're talking about that you want to be in. I think breathing is huge. I think breathing is a great one for a reset. For a pitcher, for a hitter, for you guys, if you have a quick timeout. Like for me, I could call time to the umpire, step out of the box. You'll see it plenty of times on TV. You guys just take 2 deep breaths, slow the game down. That actually, for me as a baseball player, was huge. Learning to slow the game down. The game is so fast. It's faster now than it was a couple years ago for you guys, whatever sport you're playing. Slow the game down by slowing down your internal mental clock. Yeah. When you do that, you'll actually make decisions 10 times faster, because now your mind can operate. When you're trying to match the pace of the game mentally, you actually think, you process way slower. So you guys, that's the opposite. So let your mind relax and slow down. Breathing is a great one to actually allow your mind to process faster. Yeah, that's a big one. And that's actually like scientifically proven too with like, I think, this decision making.
Do you want to comment too?
No, go ahead.
Because you always said to remind you, just like your story when you got drafted and then you got cut and how you dealt with it first. I remember
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah. when I was playing baseball, there's spring training every year. So you go into spring training. That's the start of the season. It happens around March. And I was going into my 4th season. And spring training, there are more cuts than any other time in the year because there are more people come in than the roster can fill. So that happens. But you never know when it's going to happen. So every day we show up to the locker room. You show up early. 6, 7 a.m. And the day, you get breakfast, the day starts shortly after. And it's a full day of playing. You go home to the hotel, you come back, you do it again. But every day you show up, there's always a list of new people that are gone. So you show up to the locker room, and the very first thing that you see to know if you're released or not. And released, what that means is you don't have a job. You're no longer on the payroll. You're cut. They're sending you on a flight home to where your hometown is. It's not like in college, hey, you're suspended for a week, or hey, you're temporarily not going to play. We'll never see you again. Right? It's a job. So maybe about 2 weeks into one of my spring training, my 4th season, I get to the locker room and my locker is cleaned out totally. So all your stuff is gone. Name tag up top of your name is gone. So that's how you find out you're released. Then you go into separate office room and you meet with some of the coaches, some of the people that made a decision. You have a little exit meeting and you're literally on a flight home within like an hour. Now, again, like for me, it's that got a big decision. Okay, what am I going to do next in life, right? This is kind of like for you guys, it's all right, I'm done with school. Now what next? Like you're on your own. You got to figure out, what am I going to do? What job am I going to get? What am I going to still keep pursuing this thing? For me as an athlete, as a baseball player, am I going to keep pursuing playing? And for me, it was a 1 week state of depression for sure. Like no doubt about it. That was everything that I was working towards. And at that point it was over. Right. And the way it happens is, it's not like somebody calls you and they ease you into it. Hey, we're going to bring you in for a talk. It's boom, you show up, you're like, your physical belongings are gone. It's like somebody robbed you. Right. So yeah, it was tough to handle, but I think at the other end of it, over time, it does help mold a character within you to handle failure better. So I think a good lesson for you guys, and like part of that week too. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was sitting at home playing video games for a week, like just trying to get my mind off. I wasn't in any state to do anything productive that week at all. And look, that for some guys that happens for months. Guys or girls, happens for a long time. So it's up to you to decide when you're going to snap out of that, because you can't do that forever. I think it's healthy to have a grieving period. The shorter the better. For you guys as well. You have something that was a really big moment and didn't go well. It's okay to let yourself be human for a little bit. We're not robots, right? You're not going to bounce back right away. Let it sink in. You're mad in a game. It's you're going to let your emotions out a little bit in an appropriate way where you're not negatively impacting your team. It's better to do it internally rather than externally. Like being a baseball player, if I go chuck my bat in my helmet, that's making a scene. No, but if I'm internally mad and I let myself be mad for a short period of time and I allow that to happen, not to go off on a tangent, just real quick, there's something I call a 5-second rule. You guys can apply this to your game. It could be 10, 15 seconds, but you guys know the 5-second rule with food. You drop a piece of it's a silly little thing. You can, it's still clean to eat if it's within 5 seconds. Give yourself the 5-second rule of being upset. Something bad happens, give yourself the 5-second rule of being upset. But when the second 5 hits, you've got to then say, okay, I've allowed myself to be a human to be mad, but now I'm not. Now I know there's a time that I know I can't do this forever. So if I know I can't do this forever, what's the point of me doing it for a whole day or a whole week instead of just doing it for maybe a minute or a couple seconds? It's going to be the same thing on the other end of it. You're going to save yourself the hassle and the headache, the heartache, the pain internally by doing the 5-second rule, 10-second rule, 15-second rule, something short. But that was it for me, right? Like at a certain point, it's like, okay, what's next? Because there is a long journey ahead of what you guys have in store outside of sports as well. One thing that's really important with that as well is for you guys, it's crucial. And this could help change even your next year. Everything you guys are doing is creating habits within yourself that's going to carry over to the next stage of your life. So if you're in the mindset right now of like, yeah, I'm an athlete, I'm playing sports, not really that into it. At this point, it's hard, it's a grind, just trying to get by. You're going to have those same habits when you graduate. You're just going to be in that mindset of like just getting by, doing the bare minimum, this and that. You've got to start molding a character and molding habits within you now to prep you so that now you stand out in the real world once you graduate. Go do an interview. Oh, that guy or girl stood out to me. They had energy. They had something different to say. They had a little bit more to offer. Right? I could tell they have some habits they do routinely that have really paid off over time. Right? So what you guys are doing now in your college career, and again, you don't have to be perfect. But it's really gonna like prime you and set you up to now this is the momentum you have going into what really matters once you do graduate. So that's huge. You can't think of it like, oh, this is college and then that's the real world. No, you're gradually working up to where you're constantly building up good habits of, just good work ethic, having a clear purpose. Talked about the complexity, applying that. Working towards something and like visioning your end goal a little bit, really a lot of it actually. Like have an idea in your head if you can of like, all right, this is where I'd like to be in 3 years or 5 years or then even 10 years. What am I doing today? That's one thing that gets me one step closer towards that. Whether it's I want to be the best person in my field at this job or own this company or whatever it is that you are going to go do. So that's a huge one. You're constantly molding it. You're building up a character within you. Who plays video games? Who plays Madden? Anybody play Madden football? Nobody? Yeah. Anybody play any other games? So like Madden, you have ratings within your player. You guys can apply this to anything, but like if you go to create a player, you start at like a low rating. Right? Let's say 0 to 100. 100 is the best, 0 is the worst. You start at like a 60. Right? Like you're constantly trying to boost your ratings to where you're now overall of all your skills gets higher. That's what you guys are doing right now in college. Boost your ratings. Boost your skills by putting in the work to acquire new skills. Right? Boost your knowledge by just putting in the time of becoming knowledgeable and educated about the things you need to be about. Not everything, like find your one niche that you can really hammer in on, and then you'll be really good. If you try to be good at everything, you'll be average at everything. Be good at a few things, and then turn that from good to great. That's how you become the best in the world. If you really like study people that are the best in the world, they're amazing, better than anybody else in this one or two things, in this simple path. They don't have everything figured out. They have the most important things figured out that apply to them and what they do. Not to go off on a tangent, but that is all stuff. I'm telling you, it's all I talk about. Everything's all connected here. What you're doing today and how it leads to things way outside of school and sports right now. What else? Do you guys have any thoughts or questions on any of the topics we talked about today? Does anyone have even just a slight perspective shift as to like this is how I typically would think about things and handle them, and this would be different than what I'm used to doing. Like the things that I talked to you about today, that would be different than you're used to handling things or going about your business, your sport, your school, just your how you approach everyday life. Yeah.
Going on testing, like taking a test.
Mm-hmm.
Not the greatest student, but like gotta be okay with that failure. Like, hey, just go to the exam, just take it, but like put in the prepare, study, do what you can, and go to that exam, lose, like aggressive, take it on.
Yeah.
Being like worried about the end result, because for exams, I always worry about the end result before you take what you said before. I feel like understanding that.
Yeah, and the other thing too with that, it's like the more you guys are prepared and study, I know for me, the more confident I then felt because I knew on the back end what I had behind it, that I knew the knowledge, right? So to complement that, to really, in another way, lower your stress, be overly prepared. Put in as much time as you can so that now you have it working on both ends for you. Now you're as stress-free as you can be because you know you've done everything you can to prepare and study. And then that will allow you to then justify to yourself that I can now just go do do it, you know. Again, whether it's taking a test, playing in a game, or whatever. 1000%. That's pretty much all I have, though. Yeah. What time is this? I probably went over.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
I normally have till 12:30. We'll
Okay.
just do a relaxation.
Okay.
So I'll just let everybody.
Yeah.
Just usually talk for an hour and then we do that. So that's all good. So I think we covered most of the questions here too that they have here.
Yeah. Those are just, don't worry about that. That's just my
Yeah,
random notes.
okay. Well, I want to thank Justin for coming, and I hope that you picked up some good pointers for someone that was a athlete, pro athlete, and how he handled all the ups and downs and adversities and good, bad. But I really like the point that you said about fear of failure, like addressing that and not just going out and being loose, aggressive, and doing your thing.
Yeah. Get a little swagger back in your guys' game.
So thank you.
Thanks,
very
and I
much.
appreciate it.
And if you have any